Assalamu alaikum, good evening listeners. It's me Sulaiman Ben Suare, coming back on Facebook Live on the Open Gambia platform. Juma Mubarak. Today is Friday, the 24th of October 2022. The time just gone 33 minutes past 5 in the afternoon in Birmingham, England. We share the video and the program will start. Thank you very much. Today we are going to discuss NAWEC and the Financial Ministry investigation into their financial operations. If you bear me a minute, let me just open this dialogue here. I've got some notes to read. Thank you very much. It's not a new topic. It's not a new topic, but it have gone worse for that matter. And there's a historic context to this, but we are going to concentrate more on the recent developments when Barrow took over, his administration took over, and what they have done with the institution and where the institution is at present. The nature of their bankruptcy and what impact would this have or effect it will have on our economy, the effect it's having in our economy, and in fact in the viability of our nation. I know people will be hearing me using this word constantly now, whether the mismanagement of or the lousy government we have in place is compromising our independent sovereignty. I want to keep on emphasizing this point for Gambians to wake up to this, especially the influential. That's another point I will keep on making, the influential. I don't want to even use the word elite, the influential to wake up. And tomorrow I will make a special program by looking at the crisis in the United Kingdom and how it's evident that it's influential individuals that determines the outcome, not the general population, even in so-called democratic nations. We'll look at that tomorrow, inshallah. But in the case of NAWEC, it's important to have a little bit of perspective, or by looking at the historic problems, so that for the young viewers to understand where we come from, and not directly blaming everything on one administration, but in a context too that this administration have an opportunity to bring about change. We are not going to keep on pointing fingers to the past. We are going to deal with the present because they have the opportunity to bring about change. And again, to emphasize the way forward, not only to talk about the problems, but we emphasize on the way forward, what is likely to happen and what should be done to avert that happening. This is what the platform is about, to open a conversation, to have a dialogue, by holding the system accountable and bringing initiatives or contributing ideas in developing our country. And let me just chime in, because as you can see on the video, on the topic, I have put questions that I want to go through to deliberate this program. And the beginning of it is to navigate into a brief historic failures of the corporation from independence to present ongoing crisis. It's a fact. Energy is something very delicate, very difficult to deliver. Even in first world countries, it's a challenge. It's a challenge. There's many components of the challenge of it: to generate power, to distribute that power, to make that power affordable to the people. And because of energy is important, very important, and the most important sector, in fact, for our civilization to continue, especially on drinking water, electricity for our energy supply for industries, and that industries involve our institutions like the hospitals and every other thing that we need to progress. Then it's a very important institution, sector, and a very delicate sector, very difficult to manage, but does not mean that we could not do better. And as I pointed out, even their challenges in first world countries, they use different mechanisms in order to deliver what is expected of them. And in most cases, we have seen countries that the utility is run by the government. In other cases, it's privatized, run by private companies. These are, in other countries, it's a mixture of both. And as I said, they use different source of energy. I mean, some countries will use nuclear, they will use the wind, renewable energy, they will use different forms of an energy source, fossil fuel, gas, and everything else to do that. But we concentrate in Gambia here. After independence, obviously, the economy would grow, the population will grow, and we had a problem of maintaining the energy sector, the utility sector, to cover the population at large. Yes, in the urban areas where it started, where the economy, where it's viable, in fact, to produce and supply, sustainably, become a challenge. And there are many issues relating, at the beginning was capacity, because of the nature of the economy and the capital intensiveness of providing this, and the environment that the country, the type of economy we had at that point could not support it was difficult to sustain the energy demand with support and other things. But again, corruption was part of this, and different forms, and corruption in different forms, and to build that capacity and all the things. There are so many numerous problems, and which started from the first power stations we have in Banjul went to absolute. We had to move from there to start from Kotu. I think this were I can't remember now what year, but I think it was the early 80s when we had the Kotu power station, and from the Kotu power station the upgrade of the systems where different engines were used, to the extent of moving to the Denmark, support from Denmark, and what we had was the Danida engine. I think that's what's on engine 6, started to use heavy fuel because of, again, the use of heavy fuel was to mitigate the risk associated with theft, oil theft, because the gas oil was easily stolen to be sold to the private individuals and other corporations. And it was a struggle. To the latter part of the early 90s, the Gambia government decided, decided to privatize, and that again was not handled well. And it was not handled well. The NAWEC was privatized. What we used to have was GUC, Gambia Utility Corporation, It was privatized and in two entities, 2 to 3 entities, if I remember. Don't take everything for, what I can remember, we have UHC. UHC used to be in charge of distribution and general, we have MSG and UHC. Let's say we have two components of companies running this, taking over from GUC as a private companies. And this was run by a French, it was sold to a French. Look, this was again issues that led us to the dictatorship. You see, corruption. That's why, as we say, when we talk about corruption, we are not picking on individuals. This is a systemic, this is historic, and this is structured. That's why we need to fight, combat, to minimize this corruption. This corruption obviously, undermined the administration of Jawara to lead us to what we had today. The UHC, the MSG, obviously was dissolved or taken over when the 1994 coup happened. Again, we thought things would be better. Things become worse. Compared to, why do we say worse? You see, when we compare, especially from what we had in the Jawara government to now, we have to take into context of how much money was invested. In many aspects, we do see, yes, there's many money invested in many forms, and most of them was via grants and or other sort of corporations from donor countries. But from the Jammeh administration, they started with the Taiwanese money, 5 million straight away to talk about to build distribution networks for NAWEC with BASI. Nobody saw that $5 million. You see, if people come out here to champion Yahya Jammeh for developing Gambia or doing anything, literally he wrecked that country. He did not make it better. GUC was far better than NAWEC that Yahya Jammeh introduced because of of the investments. But it went on there from going into one deal to another. Basi and Yaya just benefited from the purchasing, old engines. We had all this in the, not me making this up, but we had this in the Journey Commission, all engines at Kotu. And next minute was, in fact, another power purchase deal with the company run by Basi again. That's how the Brikama power station came about. Again, this countrywide rural electrification, again, most people would see that as success or anything, but most of it was about political. You see, energy is expensive. And there's no point to generate something you cannot distribute. There's no point to generate and distribute and it cannot be consumed and paid for. It will fail. These are the components that we have to remember when we look at the problems we are facing. Most areas that, yes, I know it's very difficult to, for people to accept that, okay, why is Ben saying that Basse should not have, Farafenni should not have, Bara should not have? No. You see, that's where we think of other alternative, renewable energy, other forms of delivering the services. But we cannot have one system fits all, where we have community sort of projects to make sure the villages and to make sure there's an economic program going with these investments, heavy investments in energy, where we can bring about agro industries. So that they will use the services and in that way it will be sustainable. But we cannot build in rural areas where we don't have any factories, the population cannot afford to consume the energy being generated, and what happens is anything generated, not distributed and not used, it's an economic loss to the company. You see? This was one problem with what Jammeh did. The other issue here, what involved was the corruption was not only in Yahya Jammeh and Basi involved in power purchase. directed. Because again, this is where when we talk of the way forward is again Gambians to ensure we have a constitution that's fit for purpose. The draft constitution did take this into consideration, that the president should not have the powers to appoint managing directors, to appoint the boards, and to dissolve the boards or to fire managing directors at will. What it does is, if it gives too much power to the executive, and when the executive is corrupt, then the entire system can easily be corrupt. The check and balance system should be there. That's why we need a form of control over this power. And the best way to do this and guarantee this is to Parliament, the body that represents the people, to serve as the check and balance system in this. What happens is, I mean, you look at the history of NAWEC, the revolving door, managing directors, boards, and everything else is putting people that he have control over. Now, from the procurement of power or energy, it went on to the fuel and spare parts, and anything else was corruption, and it did not become sustainable. And what this thing did again to was, people get fired, people get discouraged, people move away. Very, capable Gambians who were trained in the First Republic, in international, world-renowned institutions, decided to leave the country and work in the international community. International markets. So many of them, I don't want to even be calling names here to bring attention to them now, but people that understand, will understand this. And most of these people were harassed, blamed for things they have not done. It was the way it does. That's why when people say, oh yeah, it's not here, if you say this thing will not happen, that's a lie. What happens is he would blame people for even things that he done, or things he instructed or made these people do with him. Yes, at sometimes these people that he arrested took part and benefited a bit, but in most cases nobody at the time was doing anything without the approval of Yaya, or Yaya being complicit in those deals. This is a history we need to rectify. And why it's important is we can do things without abusing people's human rights. The democracy is good enough, the system should be good enough, make sure people can be held accountable. We don't need a dictatorship, we don't need any form of abuse of people's rights in order to rectify things. In most cases, it's not even ratifying things, it's just an abuse. And people get in blamed. This went on to what we have today and inherited. It went on to a level that the money could not, NAWEC obviously could not sustain themselves because they were not making money. They went into rural electrification, they are not making money. They purchased, they went into corruption, they purchased second-hand farming, they took loans that they have not utilized because of it was diverted to Basi and Yaya's account. You see? And people, Yaya is a Pan-Africanist, Yaya is patriotic. It's a lie. He went with a Lebanese guy, from Lebanon, to rob the people. Is that patriotic? Is that Pan-Africanist? We have to continue to say this for people to be educated, especially the young ones. And then, in many other forms of what was done, it became what it is. Say, social security coffers were raided. This was the pensioners, and still now NAWEC is owing social security millions and millions of dollars, which I did things about 500 million or something of that sort, which is not paid. Government decided to take up the decision to pay this off. Okay, now we come into Barrow coming to power. You know, everything that Jammeh did, Barrow maintained that and even done worst in form of corruption. Now, if we come to Barrow, we look at the recent activities of Barrow. What Barrow did first, the first form of corruption was obviously took over and said he's going to address it. But Barrow went straight away and they had a deal with Car Power. CAPA was meant to be a temporal operations. And in fact, there was other ideas or better viable options where engineers have, recommended, look, we should not even go for this car power, or if we are going to use car power, there was another company offering to build a plant and let's say better terms and conditions that NAWEC will own for themselves. They're not going to rent it or anything. They're going to build it within 2 years. It will be functional. And then NAWEC will have their things. No, they did not want that because of the deal that they saw with NAWEC. At that time, and keep this name to you, Alhaji Conte, who was with Barrow, went to UDP now, when the same Alhaji Conte from Gunjo, Dabanani, obviously, all of these people were with Jammeh, and I'll tell you, they were all part of what wrecked NAWEC. Yes, he was a managing director, they were all part of it. They helped and they benefited from it after they fell out. And their rights were abused, yes, because they were not given fair trial. But now they came around Barrow. They went for this power, pushed car power, and Alhaji Conte became an agent or representative of car power. But at that same thing is so that things can be diverted. Again, this is not only Ben Suara saying this. When Alhaji Conte went to UDP, and the latter part before the elections, he came and said a lot of things that Barrow wanted him to do with him, but he did not tell things that they have actually done, and car power was one of that. Car power, Barrow had a role in that. And when he fell out with Alhaji Conte, Barrow recommended another person called Sima, who was in Social Security, and that Sima became the rep of car power. I'm not sure whether he's still there, but he's been there before elections. After the elections, I don't know where he is, but I think he's still in charge of the deal. Being the intermediary representing car power. You see, and what that means is the corruption. Car power now is extending their services, and God knows to when. One. The other thing was this: I cannot say that the government made a deal and there was a corruption in it, but this is the power purchase with Senelec. Now, I have no proof or nobody gave me any inclination on that. But one thing that's important about the poor contract with Senelec was, again, this is where we always have to be careful, because of Barrow is over-relying on Senegal for everything, his security and everything. And when the minute we came in, Senegal started to have whatever they want. There's nothing wrong in buying power from another country. It happens in many other countries. But you have to make a deal that's better, where to the interest of your nation, not to the interest of the other party. Okay. Why is this? They rush, and I think this deal, in fact, was signed by my party. If I'm quite right, as an interior minister, he went and signed this deal. And they rushed this just as they rushed the licensing for fisheries and everything to do with Senegal interests, and it's still going on. That's the first part. Now, you see, it wasn't viable to generate power and to economically viable to generate power and in the rural communities from Barra going onto the rural districts. Now they went with the Senelec. Where is the problem with Senelec? Now, Senelec is selling. If you are negotiating, you have to understand your position of power. Senelec have excess power, excess energy. They generate it because they have a solar power plant in this Saloum part of Senegal and others. They have so much surplus, which is not easy to transmit that into the grid to the northern part of Senegal. But where it is located would make more economic sense for them to sell it to Gambia and Mali. Now, if Gambia realized that these people have generated that much energy, if they did not sell it to us, it's going to be literally a waste for them, then I should make a better deal on this. But we didn't have a better deal because of now, again, the impressions. You see, when a sovereign nation have this much power over you or influence over you, what happens is they get whatever they want. See? Now, again, Gambia should have negotiated that. So look, yes, we understand the world market. But this is again something that if you, economically, our rural areas cannot buy this energy at this cost. Economically, it does not make sense. But what we can negotiate and buy for these things, and all these things were enumerated in dollars. Yes, obviously, energy is sold in dollars. We could not negotiate again. I'm not saying that it can, but I mean, these are things we should ask ourselves. Could we have negotiated to pay them in local currency? Because if they don't sell us, they cannot use the energy anyway. They will struggle to use that energy. They will struggle to put it in transmission and transmit it to this thing. You see, that was another bad deal we have. And that is based on the influence that Senegal has. The other corruptions is here. And let me come back to one thing before I go to the other deal. The other thing I will need to come back to onto, you see the same powers Barrow have to appoint managing directors and appoint the board. Just as Yahya Jammeh, he used it. Go and look at the board that have ever been in charge with NAWEC. And look at the people in that board. I'm not saying everyone in the board, but there are key people that have served in the board. I'm not sure with some of them that are still serving in this board. They are joined to the hip with Barrow. They don't have the competence, and these are people that make deals with Barrow. Is it called Fatou Cissé? Fatou Cissé. Fatou Cissé, we know the Fatou Cissé who used to do the money transfer and became a goodwill ambassador for Barrow, NPP, and the other guy is Cheikh Omar Digo. Cheikh Omar Digo, again, he's a business kind of a partner of Barrow or whatever, facilitator for Barrow. He's the Amadou Samba of Barrow, in a sense. And these were people that he would put in boards. And if you go to GNPC, Jigo is there. You go to Gamtel, Fatou Cissé is there again. What competence does it have to be in these boards? Nothing, absolutely. One thing they have is common is a deal breaker and to make sure Barrow gets his share through this. Now, Barrow has these powers to do, and he makes sure he put people that will allow him things to come to him. And again, remember Barrow would appoint the Minister of Energy. Barrow would appoint the Minister of Finance. Now, the Energy and Finance obviously have something to do, their control over these people and the board and the managing director. And again, if you have the board, influence on the board, managing director, again, you have an influence on who becomes the directors of these places. Now, this entire system is compromised. If Barrow is corrupt, then the entire system will be corrupt. That's why we need the check and balances to make sure job security for the directors, job security for managing directors, job security or independence for the board of directors, and to make sure there are competent people in place. They can do their job. That's another lesson we have to learn to make sure we hold accountability, and these are the things we need to demand to see it happen. Now, they went on, apart from Kappa, remember, okay, this is something that most people don't realize. There's an Indian company, again, India Exim Bank. They give you loans, and okay, they said they will tell you, their banks. This is Exim Bank, it's a kind of a national reserve bank. It's the state money, and they run it in this way to buy influence, to open up their economy, to develop their country, to empower their citizens. Every nation now is doing it. Turkey is doing it. Now, this Exim Bank will come and ask you, we give you a loan facility of $100 million. Now, identify areas that you want to develop. And Gambia say, we want to expand our water distribution network. Now, part of the deal is here, we have to build it. An Indian company have to come and do it. Now, the bidding is restricted, everything is restricted. And even you cannot determine how much of what, they don't negotiate for anything else. the laziness of our governments, of if that company come in, that company can do as much as they want. They can bring laborers from India, they can do foremen from India, they can bring anything from India. How does that help us to develop? Their competency and everything else there. They bring materials from India and everything. They are not what it should be. Now, that project, when it came, again, some directors and managing directors, and what happened, there's a lot of corruption in it that had conflict of interest and taking subcontracts from these Indian companies to deliver this. And that's why we still could not have the water situation solved in the urban area. Even areas that during colonial days to Jawara days have never had disruption, from Bakau, Fajara, up to many districts now are affected. Why is this? It's because of, again, the corruption with Indian companies. Transmission networks and other things bought from India and Indian companies. Again, corruption involved, and they are substandard. They blow off, they don't transmit efficiently, and you know, and lost, cables and everything else is substandard because of corruption in procurement. Now, this thing again affects the work of NAWEC. But why is this happening? Because of every deal, major deal that happens there, Barrow is benefiting one way or the other. I will come to the cabal that would get this funds to Barrow itself. The most famous one is China. You see, that's another evidence. You remember Kodole, when the 35 million from Farmer Barrow. Gambians have to realize something. We keep on saying 35 million. 35 million is something that was captured. Okay, why is this? If Barrow negotiated a bribery for $1 million, they cannot just wire $1 million because of it will attract attention. What they do is they structure it. Structure it, let's say, okay, $30,000, $30,000, $30,000, $10,000, or something like 3 structures for these things to go below the radar. That's why we are not even sure how much that company have bribed Barrow. But we know that the company bribed Barrow because of the evidence that company paid. What the evidence we have is the 35 million. And everything about this is corruption. They use the First Lady's account in order to money launder it. Money laundering. Now, that company Barrow visited when he went to China, that company we won a contract unfairly by presidential decree, directive. That's an evidence of corruption. Now, that company, if they bring a substandard job, what can you say? These are things affecting NAWEC. These are part of the things that affect NAWEC. We had that evidence. Now, all the evidences are petrol. Petrol. NAWEC, I think, if I'm still right, have it numbers right, 40% of their expenditure goes to petrol. 40% is a lot of money. This is in millions of dollars. Now, the petrol supply cartel now would influence Barrow, and through their agents they do the bribery, and Barrow would make sure the board, the managing director, and everything else, procurement, would select their preferred bidder. Now, in this sense, what happens is there's a lot of corruption in this. The companies can sell substandard petrol because of once you pay a bribe, that bribe is going to come from the cost. It's a cost, and that company goes into business to make profit. That's why when these things happen, what happens is it affects the service delivery. Affect this, and then these companies are using bad fuel. They are putting too much sulfur, and what this does, let me take a little bit of time to explain this. How is the bad fuel affected? Now, NAWEC, when NAWEC asks for fuel, they might ask for a fuel that is about 2% sulfur. Now, if NAWEC accept 2% sulfur, say that this is what we are asking for in the bid, and the company deliver them a fuel of 10% sulfur, because substandard fuel, because they mix other fuel in it and then put sulfur in it to dilute it, whatever it is they do, chemicals. Now, NAWEC would be running their engines and say that, okay, because our fuel is 2% sulfur, we are going to carry out our maintenance 6 months in 6 months period. But not knowing it's 10% for sulfur. Running at 10% sulfur in 6 months damages the engines. What does that do? Breakdowns. And when breakdowns happen, what happen? Cost of repairs and replacement of spare parts. Again, cost of the NAWEC. The other thing too is, when this, because of you agree, once you compromise the system to corruption, you on top there, Barrow on top, just as Yaya on top, and everybody else will be corrupt. Everybody else would be corrupt. Okay, let me reframe that. I don't mean every individual, but this entire system would become, compromised for corruption. I think that's the best way, because I cannot say that everybody who works in the system is corrupt, but the systems are corrupt, and the systems will be affected. From the every other mechanism that should be there to check and balance would not work. The white men would be stealing, looking the other way, so that some engineers will steal fuel and other things, and it goes there. The procurement here, there, everybody takes the people that are not this thing would easily, because the loopholes are there, they will steal fuel. Now, the company, 1 minute is even, they might say that they are giving you 1 ton of fuel, but it's 500,000. These things, all this, there are many loopholes, and these are the kind of corruptions that affects NAWEC. These are the corruptions that affect NAWEC. Now, NAWEC is in trouble. They are not making money. They have operational costs that is far outpace their income. And even though, that's why they cannot maintain. You know, at times NAWEC will tell you, oh, our engine is arranged. It's a lie. They don't have fuel. Or they are controlling the fuel. Because if they continue operating, the fuel will just grind to a halt. They're trying to manage it until they can secure another fuel. They are owing fuel to other companies. Because they tell you, oh, no, it's a lie. They cannot buy the spare parts. There's no money to buy spare parts. Let them come out and prove this. And remember, yesterday, day before, a few days ago, I shared what I wrote is here. I shared it. This was 10th October 2021, saying that NAWEC needed to be investigated because of they are running to bankruptcy, and the managing director was Nani Juwalo was not telling the truth about the excuses given was not true, and and now they are doing the investigation. We get to the investigation, but again, these corruptions and everything led them to bankruptcy. Technically, to bankruptcy, they cannot pay. Now, they are struggling to pay Senelec. Now, the last time what happened is Senelec put pressure on NAWEC, said to NAWEC that, oh, we are, because of the Magal, we are transmitting, we are moving our supplies to cover the demand during the Magal. Now, where's our independence? Now, what sort of deal did we sign? That they can turn around to say, no, we are going to serve our people and deprive you. No, because the issue is, the reason Senelec did that, because of NAWEC is owing them and struggling to pay them. And guess what? And Barrow gave an executive order again. And you know, these executive orders now go verbal. Just like, you see, when it started with Jammeh, he used to write this thing, communicate and go to central bank. After what it is, he would send a text message or verbal instruction to 𝒂𝒏𝒔, and 𝒂𝒏𝒔 will go to central bank and take the money. That's the level we are now. Some of these things are just matter of calling one of the permanent secretaries, and say to the permanent secretary, tell them to pay cap out. The Barrow insists that car power be paid. Whatever NAWEC does, they pay car power. Do you know why? Because of wherever car power is paid, kickbacks are going, and he look after himself. He doesn't care about the people. He doesn't care about the people. Kickbacks. Now, this corruption technically bankrupt NAWEC. Now we go to the other part, which is the OMVG project. Now, another aspect is the OMVG project. And you see, there's another lie. And I'll tell you this. I saw a group of so-called experts tell you, and I know some of you say, Ben Suarez, Modi is a film. Because I said it before, when they inaugurated the substations, and Macky Sall came, and everybody else said, oh, get OMVG project. I said it's a lie. Yes, the networks are built for the OMVG projects, but the OMVG projects are not near here. But at that same meeting, Senelec was there, and Senelec said, look, we are going to have a contract with Gambia to sell them another 50 megawatts. Technically, Gambia went and took another loan on behalf of NAWEC to build the networks for OMVG, when OMVG is not near complete. The dam, Sambogulu Dam, that to serve people that have the expertise and know about this. These institutions are political. These institutions are political. They are not telling you the truth. That's why we should use our time to understand, investigate, and learn to hold this institution accountable. OMVG have been lying to the member states for so long. And if Gambia want a positive statement, OMVG will make a positive statement for Gambia. If Guinea want a positive statement, OMVG will make a positive statement for OMVG. Dam constructions are not that easy. The Sambagulu, it's not near finished. They are telling you, oh, we'll be on time. Now we build the networks. Now, Senelec, I cannot remember the amount of period they signed again. Now, they extended the car power contract for these things. Now they have another Senelec contract, and all these contracts are years into. Now, when the OMVG, if they said that OMVG project will be finished, why did they sign a long contract with these companies? Because Car Power said, I think it's extended of 2 to 3 years, and within this thing, it will be put to 8 years or something like that. You see, Barrow is just accepting this from Car Power because of kickbacks. Barrow is accepting anything from Senelec because of Senegal's influence. That's why we will talk about this sovereign independence later. Now, what it caused is most of the projects became political. To allow the generation of generating power for certain areas became political. Everything else, every project, and the incompetence, because most people, left NAWEC at the beginning, and to build back capacity take time, and people and everything else became a problem. Now, as we said, we had last week or so, saw a letter about investigating the financial dealings with NAWEC. Most people would not understand what is happening here. And I'll tell you, it's not going to improve, and the investigation is nothing but a result of infighting within the cartel. We all saw the infighting going within the economic cartel in petroleum supplies. That thing has surfaced in the case of NAWEC as well. Now, what does this mean? You see, this cartel, the entire cartel was supporting Barrow. They gave money to Barrow. But some of the cartel too were supporting UDP and probably other parties. That's what they do. They hedge their bets. Parties that they support parties in government more, parties that are likely to be next government, and parties that are likely to be the kingmakers, in order when there's a need to form a government, they can have influence on the parties, small parties that are likely to be kingmakers. That's why I listen to opposition parties, the way they criticize NAWEC. Just look at it. That's why, look, as citizens, we have to be very careful. Even if we are within political parties, we should hold our parties accountable. And because it's not to our interest. These cartels, if we, you see, that's what happened. Jammeh left, they took over Barrow. And UDP could have come in and they will take over UDP. PDOIS can come in and they will take PDOIS. And GDC the same thing. Until we are ready to ensure we have accountable systems. And I know the party might think that they are powerful or we can do this. I'll tell you, if there's no accountability, you cannot be powerful. And the example of this is Alhaji Conte. Alhaji Conte Dabanani came to UDP and did all the noise as he believed in accountability, as he believed in fairness, as he believed in anything. No. He just miscalculated, thinking that UDP would form the next government. He invested. If UDP have won, that would have been, he would try to cast back. That's why we should be careful. This same guy, Barrow knows where to press. This guy came and told us Barrow is bad. Barrow wanted to do this deal. Barrow did that deal. Barrow did that deal. Barrow did that deal. Barrow squeezed him by freezing his accounts. Guess what? The minute that he realized that UDP had lost, he jumped. He went to Barrow. And I tell you, right now, Barrow have used another executive orders to make sure a contract that he has no competence, because he already have since he moved to Barrow, he's conquering a lot of contracts. He's conquering a lot of contracts. Now, Barrow, you see how the economic cabal works? It's not about tribalism. Economic cabal is about self-interest. I'll come to that. Yes, I'll keep on reminding Gambians about this divisive politics, to know how interest groups work. He got a contract, another contract came out, and when they did their assessments and appraisals and everything, he was ruled out that he is already struggling with the contract given to him, and he should not have this. Guess what? Barrow said to Ndobin. Ndobin is the Minister of Energy. He said to him that, I want Alhaji Conte. And Ndobin made sure Alhaji Conte had the contract. A huge contract. I forgot the figure. I don't want to quote the figure, but I forgot the figure. Huge contract. And you know, Ndobin have said it right, the Energy Minister, that he was appointed by Barrow. He does what Barrow wants, when Barrow wants it, and how Barrow wants it. And you know, if you interpret that in Wolof, it means something else. But he's willing. That's why I said we need to make sure we have an accountable system in place to avoid this sort of people being in position. Now, the bankruptcy and so, now before elections, most of the economic cartel were pumped their money into Barrow. Most of it. And I tell you, they hedge bets and give. I don't know how much they give to other parties or individuals in other parties. So, but I tell you, they bets. Now, C.D. Keita, the finance minister, was trade minister. C.D. was friend to part of the cartel, one part of the cartel. That's the Mohammed Jah and Idijop cartel. And you see, they have 3, 4, 5 bodies. Now, what happened is C.D. made a lot of promises, but unknown to the cartel, and even though they kind of supported him to be in cabinet by getting into the thing, CD went, while trying to get this, CD made a lot of promises to Barrow about how this will be handled. He loved it. by giving promises to Barrow. And then CD went into finance and just realized the landmine Mambo Njai have created. He went into, he was in the outside, but when he went to finance, bam, he actually now saw how problematic finance became. Let me just look at the notes. And he realized how problematic to handle the budgets. Now, to handle the budget, the salary. You remember the 30% salary increase. Now, CD have to manipulate the systems in order to create that. In creating that, one of the manipulations was to manipulate, continue to manipulate. In fact, Mambo started that, and he have to continue to manipulate the fuel price mechanism for the the petrol marketing companies. The subsidy is technically a lie. There is no subsidy. It's a lie. It's an accounting lie. Now, CD have to do this in order to balance the book or to have a control over the books. Now, this have fractured his relationship with his friends. That because of their thought, with their support, he goes in there and they will have things the way they want it. In fact, he threw them under the bus. Now, the other thing that happened is with this with CD Keita. CD now Barrow putting pressure on CD, and CD Keita is actually, that pressure is so hot on him. He is looking to apply for a job, financial position at the United Nations, because CD have realized that he is likely to be sacked, or he has to do what Barrow wants. And he knows that it's very difficult to do what Barrow wants, because it will continue to harm the systems, just as what happened at Central Bank. I've promised Gambians I'm doing my investigation for Central Bank, and I've already got certain details, but I want to get more out of it and do a comprehensive report on it. And you'll be surprised. It's the same thing that's happened in Central Bank. Barrow and his cabal are putting pressure. And now there's this economic cartel that's more powerful than all the others taking advantage. Now, CD is under this pressure. CD wants to do the right thing here because he understands the responsibility he have, and he have to deliver this. Now his cartel friends are not happy with him. Now he is under pressure to deliver what Barrow wants. He delivered the budget for the salary increment, but you have seen the alcalos. Alcalos are asking for their salary, the same salary that when I came out and talked about that during the campaign, and that Musa Drame came out and called me out, said that I lied. Again, we are vindicated. The salary was a last minute way to control the alcalos to steal the elections. That's it. It was not to mobilize support, and I said that. And we all saw the elections stolen. Now, payback time, they cannot pay because of the economy. But to show you how reckless Barrow is, did not stop Barrow spending, did not stop Barrow asking for salary increment, did not stop Barrow sending the second wife to go to New York again just for the sake of it. Do we know how much it cost? It did not stop Barrow going to Social Security, just as Yahya Jammeh used to do, took millions of dollars, and we are short of in euros, because we don't have dollars anymore. Even the euros we don't have, took that in order to get into another deal with Tariq Musa. You see, he's reckless. Now, this is what the reality now. This is what CD found himself, that he has money, and CD is looking for a job. If he have his job, I tell you, here CD resign and go for the job. If not, he will be sacked. If he refuses Barrow, or he will do what Barrow wants. Now, what did CD do? This is what brought the investigation. Now, the investigation came out for two reasons. One, CD, to try to justify to Barrow that things cannot be continue to be done in this way because of NAWEC is completely bankrupt. Now, to do that, he set up a task force to investigate. I'll come to that. There's a pending grant, a grant. I was expecting by now the person at the finance to send me the text, but I've realized that the person have not sent me the text yet because I have sorry, in fact I had a missed call from the person instead of sending my text. I cannot call him back, but what it is, because I want to know certain details, how much the grant was and the institutions coming from. I suspect it's from the World Bank. I'm not sure. I don't want to quote that. Now, the grant meant to come in, and obviously they are dollars. What Barrow wants, just as what they do with Mambure, is for 𝒕𝒉𝒂𝒏𝒏𝒆𝒍 to send this to private bank accounts. Commercial bank accounts, not to go to the consolidated funds, so that Minister of Finance can manage it from there. They want to take this to commercial banks, and if it goes to commercial banks, that's where the deals would be easily done again, just as Yahya Jammeh used to do. You see, this is why NAWEC is not going to work with Barrow being in charge. The guy cannot help himself. Now, CD doesn't want to do that. According to my information from finance, CD doesn't want to do this. He knows the implications. He's in charge. That's why he's under pressure. Now, in order to this thing, and he is trying to prove to Barrow this cannot be done, and to ask NAWEC or this body to investigate the finances, the loans, and kind of financial transactions that NAWEC have done for a certain period. The second thing is, he wanted to use the same sort of investigation to prove to donor partners that they are doing accountability. They're applying accountability in order to able to get finances because they're bankrupt. Now, what does this tell us about the investigation? It's just a smoke screen. If investigations are done competently, Barrow will be implicated. People around Barrow will be implicated because of the deal at Car Power have to be dealt with. The Chinese contract that gave 35 million we know of, might be more than that. I explained why I said might be more than that. The deals in the petroleum sector, spare parts, and all the services deals in NAWEC would point to Barrow. That's why I said don't look forward to any of these so-called task force. These task force are a way of managing situations. They are not to bring out accountability. A forensic accountant could have been appointed. Independent forensic accountant, go for forensics and charge anybody accountable. They will not. The Gambia Petroleum is the same scenario. They want to victimize some people, and but if it was done properly, many people would be involved, and Barrow and his wife again would be involved. They will not do that. Then the financial, just a minute. Now this is the dilemma CD is dealing with, and this is what warranted the investigations to be to be in place. Now the other part is, the other questions I've put forward, I think that might be the final question of this program. Yes, is what is the way forward to stabilize the energy supply and the possibility of privatization, the associated risk of falling into the hands of the economic cartel versus the potential threat to our independent sovereignty. Now, we are in a dire situation, and this is not sustainable. Something has to be done. Now, Gambia have woke up yesterday, or again continue in fact. You see, remember a few months ago, the managing director signed the Senelec deal. And after a few weeks, managing director and Barrow came out to say, managing director said that they have enough capacity. They have generated enough capacity. To the extent, he said, to the extent that some of their engines at Kotu have been shut down. That's what it said. Look, go and Google it. This year, what the Nani Juara have said. And that was a lie. They shut down because of some of the engines are absolute. Engine 6 is Danidia engine from mid-80s from Denmark. They have this thing. It should be just shut down. But they are trying to make money out of it by buying spare parts. They cannot buy spare parts anymore. The engines in so other engines in Kotu are developing problems, again, spare parts. Even the new power plant in Brikama, there's a new, I think it's engine 5, which was commissioned less than a year ago, is developing problems. It's a very sophisticated engine, it's developing problems. The capacity, they don't have the right engineers and the corruption around it. Now, we have seen the poor services happening. And when Barrow came out and said that it's just a matter of days. The synchronization, everybody can remember that word Barrow used, synchronization. And I tell you, Barrow did not make up that word. You see, when Barrow came out with these things, it's what they feed him. Either something they feed him in this attire vote in State House, or something the people around him feeds him. Remember at the beginning, he used to come, no, Gambian mindset. Now he doesn't use the word mindset. Every buzzword he comes out with is something he's fed. Barrow was fed this synchronization. He said, matter of days, now we have enough energy from Senelec, we have energy, we are just doing this synchronization with the network, with the OMVG networks, and everything will be normal. Barrow lied to us that power is restored to normal and everything. Look, everybody, the complaints are coming out. It's not going to be better with Barrow there. Now, what's going to be the problem here is the cartel. There's this cartel now that have control, and I hate. Okay, let's say this cartel is closer to Barrow, and this is again headed by 𝒂𝒄𝒄𝒏 with the likes of well, how you call him again? My friend. He called me arrogant. Ababakar Jawaras, and there's another guy, something Sisoho, and I mean, so many of them. Now Barrow have built his own cartel. These are new people into the deal, and he have got rid of, and he is making sure every other deal goes with these people. And the other cartels are, just as he's dealing with them in the petroleum supplies, now it's, I mean, in other side of now. Now, how can things get better? And I said, what's the way for stabilization? Are they going to stabilize this? I don't see it happening. I wish they do, because this is important to us. If we cannot make this sustainable, we cannot develop. And the country will continue, economy will continue to go down, and everything will be affected. Somebody said to me, I saw somebody wrote yesterday, post that Senegambia hotels, some hotels or restaurants are putting on candles because they cannot keep on putting on their generators. They cannot. Some of the generators cannot just keep on running, and it's expensive to maintain generators. Now, they need to stabilize things, and I explain why before we go to possible privatization. Because if not, the state NAWEC is today, nobody will buy it. Because NAWEC is heavily indebted, millions and millions of dollars. No competent company will come and buy NAWEC until you strip NAWEC off. Let's say government said, okay, all the liability of NAWEC will be taken off. Now we're going to sell this. And that will not be good for us. That will not be good for us. But if they could have, but they cannot. That's why Gambians have to organize themselves. to hold this government to make sure things are done. And if the government have to resign, we have forced them to resign. Yes, that's our democratic right. We should not sugarcoat this. We should not be afraid to say this. Elections are not only the measure to change governments. Democratically, emphasize democratically. Elections are not only mean people can call out the government to resign by parliament and by taking to the streets. And this should happen. If not, we sit down, it's not going to happen. I mean, the country will be in chaos. Now, stabilization is important in order to resolve certain issues and to able to look at the best way out of this. Divide, okay, let's divide. Yeah, you can divide it. Would it make better? No, because of the systems are not there, and the corruption will continue and everything else. Barrow would have the powers to decide who runs water, who runs energy, who runs this. He will bring different people. If the people are upright, they will not stay long, they will go. Just as now, Sidi Keita is battling with is, he will need to go or he have to comply. He need to go or he have to comply. If you continue to stay, and I said that was the same thing, if you see people stay with Yaya long or continue to go in and out with Yaya, they themselves are not right. A Barrow too, if anyone stays around Barrow very long, that person don't have hope in them. They are doing what Barrow wants. If not, Barrow would let them go. Barrow would let them go. If Barrow committed a mistake to appoint them and find out that he cannot use them, he will let them go. Or they will go. Now, the privatization problem is here. We have to make sure we have a competent company. And if things are not done right, we will not have a competent company. Because, again, Barrow would look at the same thing what happened to Jawara. You see, latter part, Jawara lost control of that country. And 𝒂𝒄𝒊𝒏 and others took over. And corruption. That's how the MSD contract came about. It was completely a bad work. The billing and everything. I mean, look, we cannot even go back there. And you expect Barrow to privatize NAWEC and do it right? Not take kickbacks and give it to any company? And now, it might fall in the hands of cartels, economic cartels, and they will not do it right. Or, Senelec might take it over. And what does that tell us about our energy independence? Again, I said there is nothing wrong. Don't get me wrong here. I'll give you an example. In the United Kingdom, France supply energy, a French company, and different companies. Even to an extent, they made a mistake nearly. China was going to build all the new generation of power plant, of nuclear plant. You know what? They got out of it. They assessed it again for national security. They said, no, we cannot rely on that. Today, the European Union is paying for it for their dependence on energy supply to Russia. We all see that. You see, if Russia did not have the leverage on the European Union on petrol, Russia would not have invaded. I'll tell you that. And when Germany was doing this, yes, I'll tell you, the briefings were coming. Go and Google it. How many national security experts are saying that this is bad? The guy cannot be trusted. This guy is a dictator, and this is what happened. Now, if he didn't have that leverage on Europe, he dare not, start a war in Ukraine. But he makes sure he have the leverage, the pumps, and he can turn it down. Now, Gambia, we have seen the example. During the Magal, Senelec said they are going to supply Senegal. They're not going to send us the energy. I know they did not need the energy. It was a way of putting pressure because of NAWEC owned their money. I am not saying that we should not buy energy from Senegal, from Senelec. But Barrow government is not competent to negotiate on our behalf. You see, that's another problem we have, and we are going to discuss these issues. It's time that we discuss these issues because of the position influence Senegal have on us right now, our security, everything else. If they supply us, keep on taking these things else, we will just be reduced to a region. And that's not to the advantage of our sovereignty, independence. We lose that. We lose that. Guys, unfortunately, I cannot do a summarize today. I'm very tired. I've been busy today, but that's where the program would stop. But as I said again, then the final solution would be us, for us Gambians to rise up to hold this government accountable, the system accountable, to make sure they deliver or we replace them. And yes, there's many forms of holding the system accountable and replace them. But we should not allow the continuity of what is happening right now. And until that Barrow feel that Gambians are together to hold him accountable, Barrow would not care. That's why they will continue their divisive politics of tribe, divisive politics of party, divisive politics of region. But I will tell you, we don't have that tribe problem. The tribe problem is the politics. It's about interest. It's about corruption. The political differences, it's about corruption. And it's about opportunism. Now for citizens, we have to solve this. You see, I've shared a write-up from Karamba Toure about, it's on our page, Open Gambia, about the Fourth Republic, the kind of leaders we have. And just to give you a brief, he gave an example, the kind of speakers we have, and took example of Njai BP. And Njai BP, may his soul rest in peace, and all those departed souls. He gave an example of watching Njai BP travel to Senegal with a high-powered delegation to because of there was one of Senegalese dignitaries passed away, and he went and he saw Njai BP over on TV, like representing us, and he was proud because of how eloquent the character of the person and everything's about that the people and every other thing. We all see when even videos, pictures are shared about Fariman Singate, Sadaulas, and that generation, and some of these leaders are not even that heavily. This thing, but we see how sophisticated they were. Now he compared these people to the likes of Fabakary Tombong as our speaker, Sidi Njai as our deputy speaker, Duf Sanos as our presidential advisors, and Mambajik and others. Gambia, look, and if you think that's not your problem, there's something wrong with you. And if you think you are successful as a Gambian, but these are the people leading you, these are the people representing your country, you have a problem as a Gambian. There's something wrong with you. There's no point of measuring your success based on what you have acquired. Measure that to what impact you have and what society you live in. Until we work to achieve that society, we will continue to be a backward society. And if we fail, a generation have failed. This is about generation. This is not about a tribe. This is not about a political party. Political parties are institutions. All tribes in the Gambia are what made us Gambia we are, our diverse people. Now, what happened in the First Republic, a generation failed us. It's not only the PPP that failed us. A governance is inclusive of the politicians and all of us. When Yaya Jammeh happened, what went through the 22 years, a generation failed us, but a generation fought to rescue themselves. But the same generation have failing themselves to something that this time around, possibility of losing our sovereignty, it's very near. Now, this is where I'll continue to tell Gambians, my discourse would be to point out this and to say it, that we are running up to a failed state. And if we become a failed state, tell you what, by international law standards, we cannot be in the belly of Senegal and become destabilized, and Senegal will not have a right by international standards to request from the United Nations to intervene to sort out the situation. And what that means is they will end up putting, just as they have a puppet government, they are maintaining a puppet government in the Gambia. And worse than that can happen. And again, we are watching, not holding the system accountable, make sure our democracy is credible. Our IEC is credible. Now we have digital registration. So many people are registered who are not. We might end up... Now, we will have to discuss this separately. But tomorrow, I will try and come out to discuss about the United Kingdom, but in perspective of Gambia. What happens here, to show what happened here, how it was created by elites, and how either it's been manipulated by elites. But the average citizens are not even voting for the prime ministers. You see? Even democracy, where they champion democracy, there can be a fault line. And Gambia, that's why we should always aspire to do better. When we measure ourselves with better other countries, we are trying for excellence. It doesn't mean that we should look at where things are done wrong and to say, oh, we are better than this. No, we should look where we think that they're doing things better, and we strive for even doing better than them. It's possible. We are a small nation of 2 million, and we have enough resources. What we need is the leadership and men to do that. Thank you very much, guys. Have a good afternoon. Thank you.